Okay, so yesterday we started chapter 4. We looked at traffic laws. Who did we say creates and regulates? Federal, state, local, right? Laws are similar but different in each state, similar and different in each city. So understand that as you go through. Talked about the safety belt law, everyone everywhere. Showed you guys the old one. Gave you the story about wearing it correct. Talked about airbag safety. Speed limit. What is the definition of speed limit? Suggestion for what? What'd you say, Dan? In the best conditions, right? It's a suggestion for the best. Therefore, if it's bad, go slower. Construction, what to do there. Emergency vehicles, get out of the way. School zones, funeral processions, some right-of-ways. Passing, when to pass on the right, when not to pass. Lane usage, some additional rules. Blinkering, and today we're talking about turns. So the first one up here today is right turns. Right turns are considered probably the easier turn to a left turn. Why? What do you have to do on a left turn? Cross traffic, right? So there's a little more danger involved. On a right turn, they tell you to generally follow the curb line, right? We don't want to loop out too far because that would create a dangerous situation. You probably see it on like big trucks, times buses. These vehicles make wide turns, right? So they would have to loop out in order to make that turn, so understand that. If there is a multiple lane situation, so let's say there's 2 lanes, 3 lanes of traffic, whatever it may be, turn right from the farthest right lane. Does that make sense? And then if you're turning into multiple lanes, which lane should we turn into? The farthest right, correct? Turn right from the right to the right is how they would say that. So the key there is just not veering out wide. Left turns are about the same way, but opposite thinking. Left turns, turn left from the farthest left into the left. Like we just mentioned before, left turns have just a bit more danger with them because of the fact that you're crossing traffic. How many looks should you guys give when you're trying to determine if you should go? A lot of people say that, right? You said 2 looks. But I'm a 3-looker. Look left, look right, look left. And would it hurt to do 4? Because if I look both directions twice, I'm probably not going to miss anything, am I? But there are times if you only do the 2 looks, like they do suggest, if I look left and I look right, what if in my 2 looks there was something in my blind spot? Did I miss it? And now I pull out, boom, I get hit. So 3, 4 is okay. We don't want to overlook, right? Because what happens if you're sitting there looking too much? Are people getting crabby around you? You have to have a little bit of aggression in your driving. You can't be passive all the time. Find your opening, see your opening, take your opening. Should you pull out in front of traffic and slow them down? No, that's the definition of a good entry into the road. You should enter the road and never slow traffic. When I turn out there, traffic should just seamlessly keep going, not slow down. Okay, changing lanes. Changing lanes, a lot of students get in trouble on this. I'll tell students to change lanes, and this is what I get. I'll say, turn here. And let's say they're turning into a left turn lane. They'll go like this. What's the problem? Watch what I just did. Okay, I'll say, okay, get in the left lane here. Did you see anything wrong with what I did? What I didn't check, right? Students don't look. They just blinker and change. They're assuming what? There's no cars there, because there shouldn't be when you're just changing into a left turn lane. Key to that statement is there shouldn't be. What did I tell you guys to do as drivers? Assume what? Assume negative, right? Assume somebody is driving up past you really fast. Does it happen? Like, I've seen people get passed out here in front of school. So somebody turns into that middle turn lane and whips around somebody really fast. So assume that's happening, right? So anytime you change lanes, what should you do? You should blinker, check your mirrors, and check your blind spot. Then change lanes. Should you slow down? No. What do we just say? We want to make sure that traffic does what? Keeps flowing. If we slow down traffic. So we want to blinker, check, change. All in one motion. It says on the change lanes that I should do so in advance, kind of plan in advance. In a perfect scenario, that should happen, right? But other times where it's like, oh, we got to turn here like last second. But should we still do all that stuff? Just do it faster? We always blinker, check, enter. Whether it's blinker, check, enter slow or blinker, check, enter. Do it fast. Either way, you got to do it. U-turns, legal or illegal? What do you guys think? Again, depends, right? What would it depend on? Where I am, or is there a sign present that says no U-turn? I would tell you, the book would tell you, most people would tell you, U-turns aren't something we want to do, right? It's easier to probably just drive around the block and come back the other direction. I don't know, it's been almost 4 or 5 years ago, we went on vacation to Michigan, like Lake Michigan area, you know what I'm talking about here? So we're up there, and they have U-turns everywhere in Michigan. And I asked, being a driver instructor, I'm a dork now, I'm older. I asked some Michigan resident, I'm like, why do you guys got all these U-turns? And they're like, well, our state doesn't believe in having a bunch of traffic lights. So rather than having intersections and traffic lights, they have U-turns. What's the beauty of having a U-turn versus a traffic light? What's traffic light run by? Power, electricity, maintenance, right? Is there maintenance on a U-turn? So that's their theory, is there's a lot less maintenance to keep track of U-turn areas. So that's what they do. Hazards. What are hazards? We're not talking about hazards on the road. We're talking about hazards on your car. Otherwise known as what? Flashers? What are they? Anybody know what I'm talking about? Am I the only one? What is it?
They're like both your bumpers are on the same time.
Yeah, where is that button located? Typically. Top of steering wheel, middle dash, right? And it's going to be like a red triangle looking deal. Push that button, you get the double flashes going. What do we use that for? What's that? If you're stopped on the road, right? What else? What if I have a really big trailer going really slow? Could I put it on? Take that out of your mouth, Kevin. It's bothering me. So, going slow, right? What else? Basically, anytime I feel like I'm doing something out of the ordinary, right? So going slow, got something big, stopped on the side of the road, all those type of things we just talked about. Anytime you're doing something a little bit out of the ordinary, put them on, and then take them off when you're not needed. Two-way left turn lanes, what are those? What's the nearest one? Two-way left turn lane is a lane that provides a safe area for cars making left turns. Is there one near here? Where's it at? Would it be right out in front of school? All the way down the road here? Do we have 3 lanes out there in front of school? We got the right lane, the left lane, and we have the middle lane, which is a two-way left turn lane. So both sides use that to turn left, correct? Does that make sense now? Most, you guys are class number 30 out of 30 that has not got that correct. I haven't had one student when I say, where's the two-way left turn lane at? They're like, right out here in front of school. But then as soon as I say it, they're like, oh yeah. Like, duh, right? So two-way left turn lanes are those lanes that are added on for creating flow. Because what if we didn't have that out there? What would happen? Would before school and after school be a huge disaster? Because traffic would be backing up, people would be doing all kinds of crazy stuff. It makes everything flow a little bit better. Turn lanes, changes, construction zones. Biggest thing about construction zones is it's changing something. What's the problem with us humans and change? Do we like it? Are we not very receptive to change, even if it's a positive change? Like you can have a terrible boss, let's say, and then they tell you you're going to get a new boss, but in a way you're like, man, at least I know my old boss, right? So we're not always receptive to change. We don't like it. And it's the same way when we drive. If they're going to change up the road that we're driving on, does it mess with us? Because we're used to doing it one way. That's kind of our problem. So we've got to pay attention to what's going on. Are they moving us around in a different location? What are they doing to us that's different? And see that and realize that and handle it. School buses. School buses make special stops when they're loading and unloading. You guys ever notice how they have the yellow light go first, right? Remember how we did 100, 200 yesterday on blinkering in town, out of town? I'm pretty sure their lights are the same way. So at 200 feet, they start flashing their yellow light. What's that mean? It means in 100 feet, I'm going to turn on my red flasher, and then eventually I'm going to put my stop arm out. Should you pass under yellow or red? Should not. Okay, do not pass when they're doing yellow, reds, or stops. That's a big violation. You are going to probably get the cops called on you. No good, right? So understand that they have to do that. Where else does school bus have to stop? Railroad tracks, right? Same issue there. At 200 feet, they're going to put the yellow one, red one stop arm. They're going to check, make sure it's clear, then they're going to proceed. So make sure that you understand that happens. Railroad crossings. When you stop at a crossing, stay back 15 to 50 feet. Why do we want to be back so far? Why don't we want to be right up on the tracks? What's the easy answer? Train coming, right? What if the train falls off the track, right? If the train falls off the track, is it going to fall off like just 5 feet right there? Or could it go pretty far? Could they kick up debris that could fly up and hit your windshield? Because sometimes they go fast out in the country, right? Like at towns at times they slow down. But when they go through like rural areas, they don't slow down much, do they? So they could kick up some stuff. So stay back. Once we deem it's clear, we can go. Should we ever go around a stop arm that's down? No. Find a different way around. What would be the only time I would tell you it's probably okay to go around a stop arm that's down? 2 maybe. Somebody directs you around it, right? Like a professional person, cop, train worker, or an absolute emergency, right? Again, what's an absolute emergency? Just like yesterday, phone. Is it haircut? Or is it life or death? Life or death. Should you ever stop on tracks? Never. Never stop on tracks. Should you trust tracks? Should we trust those devices? Does technology screw up? So even if the track doesn't have lights or arms down, should you still look for a train? I would, because again, just don't trust that technology. Alleys and driveways. Anytime you're exiting an alley, a driveway, what do we have to look for? Not just cars, what else? Why do we have to look for pedestrians? Could they be on the sidewalks? And usually are these things crossing a sidewalk? So we have to look for now a person that's possibly there, not only just cars. Parking. Stop the engine, set the brake. What brake are we talking about? Parking brake. Parking brake, otherwise known as e-brake. Everybody know what we're talking about now? In driver's ed, I told you guys, make sure you have it on when you're done and take it off before you go. Some cars, it's a little push button here, but most cars nowadays, it's with your left foot, right, on the ground, and that's where our driver's ed one is. We'll put that brake on, and we'll take it off as needed. Okay, these two are important. Why are they important? Because you are tested on them in the driver's ed car. Uphill, downhill parking. It seems like it's difficult, but it's not. There's only one scenario where you turn to the opposite way. So uphill with a curb, you turn to the left, okay? All other times, you turn to the right. You see how there's a curb and no curb? Every scenario is to the right except for uphill with a curb. So uphill with a curb works like this. We're driving along and I'll say, okay, let's do uphill parking on the right. You blinker to the right. You get parallel to the curb, which means what? What's parallel? Alongside it. We want to be close, but we don't want to hit. Hitting is deemed technically failure with the state. But for me, I'm just going to take points off, and it just does damage to the car, right? So we want to get close to the curb, but we don't want to hit a curb, right? How can we tell when we're getting close to a curb? What can we use? Can we use that mirror on the right to let us kind of understand where we are? That helps. So use your right mirror as you get closer. So now you're close to the curb. You're about 6 to 12 inches away. Turn your wheel to the left. Put it in neutral, and what happens when we let go? The car's going to roll into the curb. Tires will hit the curb. You see why we do it now? Because then when we put it in park, our car's in park, our e-brake's on. If those things fail, is it going anywhere? No, because what did we just do? We let the tires smack into the curb. Does that make sense? So now that car's not going anywhere. Once we're done, okay, I'll say let's re-enter the road, turn your parking brake off, put it in drive, blinker, check, re-enter. Downhill, same thing. I'll say downhill on the right, blinker to the right, parallel to the curb, don't hit the curb. But this time we turn to the right, like I just told you, and put it in neutral, and it's going to roll forward, right, and hit the curb. Once we hit the curb, put it in park, parking brake on. Is the car going anywhere? No, because we're up against the curb. Only thing that's a little different here is, okay, now I'm sitting like this, my wheels are pointing this way, and then I'm going to tell you, okay, let's re-enter the road. What's the problem? Where are my wheels facing? The wrong direction, right? So I'm going to have to turn my parking brake off. I'm going to put it in drive, and I'm going to have to straighten the wheel, blinker, check, then re-enter. Does that make sense? So that's the only thing you got to remember there. Parallel parking is not tested on, but is it important? Or it's not important, but is it something that you should understand how to do? Yeah. Why don't we test you guys on it is where we live, right? I grew up, I went to Highland High School. I've lived in this area for 40 years. In my 40 years, that means I've been driving for how many math majors? Come on, you guys should be able to do that. 24. So for 24 years of my driving, how many times have I parallel parked? One hand? Probably, right? Just the opposite. If I grew up in downtown St. Louis, would I have to do this on a daily basis possibly? Yes. So that's why it's important to understand in case you do travel over to a city. But growing up where we're growing up, we're not going to do this very often. but still having an idea is okay, right? So what you want to do, same thing, is you got two cars kind of separated, right? Would you practice on cars, or should you practice on something else first? Maybe throw some cones down, or just make believe that there's two cars there. But what you would basically do is you want to pull up next to the front car and be pretty close to it, about a foot away, it says. Then what we want to do is, when we're equal to that car, we turn our front wheels to the left or to the right. To the right, because if we turn them left as we back up, we're going to smack into the car right next to us, correct? So we turn our wheels to the right as we back up, so our back goes in first, and what happens to our front? It comes out, right? Okay, so we do that till we're equal distance with the front of our car and the back of the car in front of me. What do I do then? Counter steer? Because now what do I want to happen? I want to now have the front of the car come in and the back go out. Theoretically, when I get done, am I going to be perfect the first time? Or am I going to be maybe too far to the back? You're probably going to be too far back, close to the car behind you. Don't leave it there, right? Make sure you then kind of pull up, even things out, and have the same distance in front and behind. For a couple reasons. For one, if you leave it where you're really close to the car in the back, you might have them stuck, right? Otherwise, the car in front of you leaves, next guy comes in and does the same thing to you. Now are you stuck? Because you can't go forward or backwards. But if I have equal distance, front and behind, I can back up or move forward as necessary. Does that make sense? So don't leave it one way or the other. Handicap parking, talked about that yesterday. Have to have the sticker, have to have the person with you, have to have the plate, whatever it would be. Do I have a book? I think I do. 35, it says here. You are prohibited from stopping, standing, or parking on the roadside of any parked vehicle, double parking. On a sidewalk, so if you park in a driveway and the driveway goes across the sidewalk, you're not supposed to park on the sidewalk. Do you understand that? Because people can't get around you. In a marked buffer bike zone, street evacuation zone. This time of year there is actually considered snow routes. I don't know what it is in our town. I'm guessing it's going to be like right out here in front of school, courthouse areas. When there's a chance of snow, you're not supposed to be parked there, because those are the areas they plow first. Divided highway areas. Nighttime on the road unless you have your flashers on. Any place where it prohibits. In front of a public driveway. A fire hydrant. What happens if you park in front of a fire hydrant and a fire comes around? They can't get to it, so what are they going to do? Could they break out your windows? Could they run the hose over top of your car and dent your car? Can they do whatever's necessary to get the job done? Could they slam a fire truck into your car to push it out of the way? So is that something you want to do? No. Same thing at a fire station. Don't block a fire station or emergency exit, because they don't have time to call you, do they? What are they going to do? They're going to give you the old push, and your car is going to get wrecked, and it's going to be your fault. Do not park within 30 feet of a stop sign or yield. Why don't we want to do that? Because you're blocking what? Visibility of the sign. You may have seen it before where there's signs that says no parking beyond this point. And that's kind of what those are set up for. Do not park within 50 feet of the nearest railroad or on a highway between sunset and sunrise. Additional laws here. Motorists should familiarize themselves with local laws as they may vary between municipalities. Illinois law states that a driver or individual may not cause an object to fall off an overpass, drive on a sidewalk unless it's part of a driveway, overload a vehicle with passengers or freight, What they're talking about there is, have you ever seen like kind of a hoarder, a person who collects things, and their car is filthy and full of crap on all sides? Is that safe? So we don't want people to do that. Ride in a house trailer while being moved on a street or highway. So if I have a camper that's hooked to my hitch, you can't be in there, correct? If I'm driving an RV, can I be in the back? Yes. So you can't be in the back of an operating one there. Operator permit to be operated in any vehicle sound system that can be heard from 75 feet away. What's the issue with that one? Is that one that's tough for the court of law to hold up on? Because I pull over Brody and I say, I'm pulling you over because your stereo's loud, your exhaust is loud, any of those kind of things. I give him a ticket for it. What's the problem? I said it's loud. If Brody takes that to court, let's say, goes in front of the judge, all their attorney would have to pretty much say is, what is loud? Do you have a decimal reading, or decimal reading of what it was? They would say no, and you're like, so is loud to her different than me? Different than him, than him, than him, than her, right? We all have a different definition of loud, so loud doesn't hold up, right? So more than anything, it's just like, if they pull you over for loud music, they're probably not going to give you a ticket for loud music, but could they get you for something else? 16 years old, you got 3 people in the car, non-family. That's the time they're going to hit you with that rule. Does that make sense? Now on the exhaust thing, how do they get you? Can I look underneath there, and if there's no muffler, are you getting a ticket? Because legally you have to have a muffler. So that's how they get you on that one. So if you have a muffler exhaust system, you're probably going to be safe. Vehicle emission testing is something that was like really big 10 years ago, and it's kind of gone away, except for if you live in the cities. The cities have tested cars and kind of said certain cars can't be out there because their emissions are too strong. That is the end of chapter 4. Okay, this is what I want you guys to do right now. Okay, I'm going to send you guys to a computer. And I'm going to tell you which computer to go to. So, here we go. So you're already there. So 2 is yours, right? You're supposed to be at 2. Miley's 4. Nick is 6. Landon was 8. Gavin's 10. So Gavin go to 10. Stalin 12. Dominic 14.